with all the good stuff you need to know.
Right here on the Zone 105.9 and worldwide
At thezone1059.com.
Here we go. Reaction Monday. Reaction Monday. Hey, let's while we're getting started here, let's hear it for the 2024 regular season. Let's hear it. Round of applause. Yeah, it's over. It's in the books. The end. And so it's not only a reaction Monday to the weekend's games, but maybe a little bit of a reaction to the whole shebang, the whole year. So get it on in here. What did you think about rivalry weekend, if you want to call it that? Lots of different directions we can go with it today. And the biggest things, I hope I get to hear from you, hear your reaction and kind of what you thought or how you felt coming out of the battle for the Golden Egg in Oxford. Any surprises there? I was surprised by that game. Now, what do you think I mean by that? Anyway, I'll give you the answer coming up, what I mean by that in just a minute. You can be a part of the show today in the Bureau, the Mississippi Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Mississippi Farm Bureau Insurance, go! With the home team. They are your home team at Farm Bureau Insurance all across the great state of Mississippi. Your hometown heroes, that's your local Farm Bureau Insurance agents. So get on in here. You can comment on the live stream. You can text the show. You can call me. And I hope you'll make good use of all three of those. All right. So if you're, first of all, hey to you. I know you don't see me moving, but it's live here on this Monday, December 2nd. So if you see my picture there, you see the numbers and stuff scrolling on the bottom of the screen and all the sponsors that make the show possible. Out on YouTube and Facebook and X, formerly Twitter. Feel free to drop a comment right there. And it pops up in this nice, neat column right here. I can pop it up on the screen. Like Hunter on YouTube, the first comment today, he said, "Good afternoon, Matt, on a Reaction Monday. We can talk rivalry week, NFL, but let's kick it off with some Mississippi high school playoff talk. Maybe a little sonic boom. You want a little sonic boom to start the show, huh? Okay. Well, why not? Let's give the people what they want. That's what I always say. Yeah, and listen, state championship high school football coming up this week, too, starting on Thursday. Now you have 7 classifications, and so you have 3 days of it, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Brandon versus Tupelo. South versus North, respectively, for the 7A title. I think that's Thursday night. Huge game. And many, many more. All right, also text the show in the country, please, and text line. The number to text is 885-3776. That's a 601 number, 885-3776. Or call me on the Davini phone, Davini Equipment, Madison and in Jackson, your Kubota dealer. The number to call, 897-1059. That's 601 number, 897-1059. Give me a shout. Get to hear from you. It'll be my pleasure. Put you on the air. Let her rip, Tater Chip. Here we go. All right. What's up? What's up, Jeff? My man, Jeff. Soccer coach / photographer extraordinaire. I saw those wedding pictures you posted from this weekend. That was beautiful, man. Beautiful. Son, when I grow up, Jeff, I want to be like you. I don't want to be like Mike. I want to be like Jeff. All right. Over to the text line, the country please, and text line. David and Brandon says, Matt, I want to make one small argument / point for Ole Miss, and then I'm done. Said Florida would beat a lot of teams right now. Yeah, look, I think you're right about that. I don't even know where to begin to dive into the Ole Miss / playoff / South Carolina / Alabama / other conferences argument. I don't even know really where you start, but David, I mean, as you look at it right now, let's be real about it. Let's be honest, okay? Feet on the ground, honest about this. Ole Miss has lost to Florida. It is not as bad a loss as Florida's record might indicate. Now, you know, I know that sounds like you're sort of making excuses for people. I'm not. I'm just saying I agree with you that Florida would beat a lot of teams right now. They finally sort of kind of put it together, it seems like. But I still think, you know, overall they look a lot like Ole Miss in that they still, for some reason, look like they have a long way to go. Now, you go, wait a minute, Matt. Did you just say Ole Miss looks like they have a long way to go? Yeah, what it is with Ole Miss's offense, I can't really pinpoint. I don't know how to pinpoint it. And I know that, yeah, sometimes their offensive line gets beat up a little bit, and that makes everything difficult. And when you have some games where you're just getting whipped on the offensive line like they did against Florida, you know, it's really hard to win the game. But also, then, you know, you turn around and you watch them against State. I felt like the Egg Bowl was a deal where going into it, I expected a blowout. You know, I think I told Hannah Beth and her family, listen, y'all can go to the game if you want to, but I'm just telling you, you're probably going to wind up leaving at halftime. They're like, no. They didn't believe me. Turns out they were smarter than me because I thought if they are what they have been throughout the year, you know, it's a 28-0, 35-0 type of game at halftime. Well, not only was it not that, it was way, way more competitive deep in the ball game and even coulda, shoulda, woulda type of thing, right? With State down there on the 1 yard line with several shots at it and couldn't get it in. If that ball goes in some way, score's different, and you have this whole different type of feeling to it. But vice versa, you know, if Ole Miss gets in score mode at the end of the game, which they didn't do, I was kind of surprised by that, actually. That when they got the ball back with over 5 minutes left, you know, they go score, it's what? 33-0 with an extra, 33-14 with an extra point. You go for two and get it. You make it 34-14. It's a 20-point win, and maybe that looks better because you're trying to impress the committee. They didn't do that. I wondered, you know, why. I was a little bit surprised they didn't do that at the end. Maybe it's they didn't have confidence to do it. Maybe something else played a factor too, and maybe the relationship between the coaches had something to do with that. I don't know. You know, maybe it was the fact that State's defense had played the best it's played all year long, and they're looking at it like, yeah, there's 5.5 minutes left, so you don't want to go in go mode, make a mistake. They've had some stops in the second half, State did, and you get a stop and you get the ball with a chance to cut it to one, and there's still time left. And so all those things was like a show of respect, you know, in different forms for State at the end of the game, that they got it back with 5.5, and really what they were trying to do is get the game over with as opposed to go score more points. But I guess what I'm saying is, like, you know, you watch Ole Miss's offense, it's just hard to figure out what the problem is or what. There's just something at times where it stagnates and you can't quite figure it out. Now, we can get into some more specifics of the game for State, just evaluation on it coming out of it. But I just felt like overall the reason that was a 12-point ball game, 26-14, was because I feel like in many respects, especially defensively, it was the best State has played all year, particularly on defense. At the same time as Ole Miss really didn't play that well, especially on offense. They really didn't play that well. And they really, defensively, they played great, Ole Miss did in the second half, but in the first half, they didn't really play, you know, as well as they have this year. So it was like they weren't really firing on all cylinders, paired with the fact that State was playing, in some regards, the best ball game it's played as a team in terms of complementary football involving the defense. And therefore, you got a much closer game than anybody thought you were going to get. But, David, anyway, back to your point, you said, you know, Florida would beat a lot of teams right now, and they would. They would. You know, the whole playoff thing and those last few spots, you know, who knows what they're going to do. I will say this. You know, what is that committee going to try to do? You know, they're going to go with the other, 7 highest ranked after the champions that get the automatics. But so you're going by the college football playoff rankings. And that's what I've always argued is they designed it so that they could still manipulate it a little bit as needed. Like manually get some teams in there that needed to be in there as opposed to just depending on something else. And so you wonder what they're going to do. But I would say, wouldn't you say that if you have unbiased football thinkers around a table, and the idea is we just want the 12 best teams in it. Okay, so 4 of these spots, or 5, or how many it is this first year, is getting gobbled up by these automatics. But other than that, you're just putting the best teams in there. Well, how are you going to argue the idea that the best teams are in the SEC? Like, how are you going to you see what I'm saying? Like, if that's what your qualifier is, the best teams, period. We're not even saying strictly according to wins and losses. We're just going like, who are the best teams? Well, the best teams are in the SEC. And, you know, you take an SMU or someone like that, let them play Mississippi State's schedule that they just had this year and see what their record is. Is it the same? No. Let some of these SEC teams that won 8 games, Texas A&M, for instance, let them play SMU's schedule. How many do they win? Just about all of them, right? Now, it's different if you're going, okay, yeah, but look, we expand the playoff, and we're not considering just who are the best teams. No, it's who has won their games at the same time as being the best teams. And then you're jockeying it up there a little bit different. But if you're just strictly sitting down going, look, you know, outside of these automatics, we're going to gather up about the 6 or 7 best teams in America, and we put them in the playoff. Well, then how can you not have a majority of teams from the SEC? It wouldn't make sense any other way. That's all I'm saying. Steven texted the show. Country pleasing text line. Country pleasing sausage on grocery store shelves all around the Southeast. Said, Matt, I was shocked at the Egg Bowl. Steven said, I had told the group I was riding with at the game, Ole Miss would have to turn the ball over a few times for State to be in it. In the fourth quarter, State threw 2 picks, muffed a punt, was still in it. Got to be able to punch it in from the 1-yard line. Well, Steven, I'm right there with you. I was honest with y'all last week. I wasn't trying to talk you into something or what do they call it? Emotional hedging because I'm a State guy. That's just not it at all. Just looking at it, you know, I'd seen State all year, and what little bit I'd seen from Ole Miss is pretty high. Like if they are who they are, and we are who we've been all year long, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of how many they beat you by. And you go in there and, you know, while they didn't necessarily have their best 4-quarter effort that they've had this year, State did in some respects. Now, you only scored 14 points in the ball game, but you had it on the 1-yard line, and you did have the turnovers, as you mentioned, Stephen. So maybe, but that's a really good defense at Ole Miss. What are they, the number 1 scoring defense in the SEC or close to it? One of the top scoring defenses in the country. And you put up 14, you have a chance to punch another one in, just can't do it from the 1. That's what I'm saying. I mean, State, and when you look at what the defense did, that's the thing for me too. Getting stops, multiple 3-and-outs in the game, playing physical. This is the first time against an SEC opponent where consistently in the game you had defensive front guys winning, like penetrating and causing disruption. It's the first SEC game where State's defensive front did it all year long, period. And, you know, that's why you had a closer game. All right, over to the phone line. Did y'all see the pushing and shoving and flag planting and everything at the end of the Michigan-Ohio State game? Let's head over to the phone line. The Davini Equipment phone line. Davini Equipment in Madison and in Jackson, your Kubota dealer. Number to call, 897-1059. On line one, we have DJ. What's up, DJ? Happy Monday.
Thank you, Matt, for talking about the end of the game, because, I'm a big Ohio State fan, but that's one of the reasons I wanted to call. I'll mention that in a second. But first, let me ask you this, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. I'm going to tell you why I think Ole Miss has no chance of making it, because it is manipulated. And, if they can get Notre Dame hosting Alabama in the first round, do you know what kind of ratings that would get?
Yeah.
Alabama playing in front of Touchdown Jesus. So I think Ole Miss has no shot. And here's what bothers me. I don't like Ole Miss. I'm an Ohio State fan, but I graduated at State. But I would love to see Ole Miss get their shot because I think they deserve it. Their win against Georgia was a lot more convincing than Alabama's.
Right.
But now I want to go to the Ohio State-Michigan game, and I want to ask you, because you played at a lot higher level than I ever did. I played JUCO, but the one thing that I remember about Jackie, and you like I said, Coach Sherrill, I felt like he could motivate a team and he knew what buttons to push. Would you agree with that?
Sure, yeah. And when you say motivate, sometimes people think that means screaming and yelling and pumping people up.
Absolutely.
But that's not the way he was. But he was a great motivator.
Absolutely. Well, my point with that, I heard Ryan Day say earlier in the week, first of all, after losing to Michigan, you didn't have to worry about motivation, and that's one thing. And I knew Coach Sherrill, okay?
Yeah.
I know Coach Sherrill. I hadn't talked to him in years, but Ryan Day, when he made the quote earlier in the week, this game is almost life and death. The worst day of my life was when I lost my father, but the second worst was when we lost to Michigan. I'm thinking, that's counterproductive. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I remember catching wind of that, and I was kind of like, come on.
I cringed. Yeah. But when I saw the game, we played so tight.
Yeah.
We've got one of the best field goal kickers in the country. He missed 2 35-yarders. We scored 10. And the thing is, you've been there, Matt, and I know there's probably games where y'all felt like maybe y'all didn't have the best team, so you may have to. But, when you've got the best team, I'm sure there's times where Coach Sherrill told you to go out there and, hey, you're the better football team. You got to earn it, but go out there, have fun, let it rip.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's the better approach.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like Coach Day, and I'm gonna be honest, and I'm not one of those people that want to see a coach get fired, but there's a lot of people calling for his job right now.
Well,
and I think he handled the game poorly. I really do.
I think he did too. And DJ, here's the other thing too. It doesn't necessarily help him that in the preseason you had guys like Urban Meyer and Frank Solich and all these other guys saying, hey, this may be the most talented college football team I've ever seen.
No, it is. But now I'm going to say this, and as a quarterback, and it went under the radar. We lost 3 starting offensive linemen in the course of the year for the season.
It's a huge deal.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We were able to hide that against Penn State. We were able to hide that against Indiana. But at some point, that had to rear its head. And, Michigan still got a very good defensive front. But let me ask you this, and I'll end the call with this.
Okay.
College or pro, have you ever heard of a team losing 3 starting offensive linemen for the year?
Yeah, for the year. I don't know if I've heard that. Yeah, no, it's really rare.
Well, the new phenomenon. I don't know if you're familiar with it. When you played, I'm going to guess most of your offensive linemen were in the upper 200s.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
I would say, yeah. And when I was at State, mid to late 90s, everybody always talked about how huge our offensive line was because most everybody was over 300, but that was kind of unusual.
Right. Well, the thing we're seeing a lot in college football is torn Achilles from offensive linemen. They brace everybody up to protect the knees from the crossfire. But you can't protect. And when a guy's 340, 350 and moves like a small man, there's nothing. We lost our center, and there's several Achilles ruptures that's happened this year in college football. And there's nothing you can do to prevent that, Matt. I mean, when a guy weighs 350 pounds and can run sub-5 flat, the Achilles wasn't made for that. And we lost McLaughlin 2 weeks ago, and basically a shell and short practice. He took that hard 45 step, his Achilles ruptured. But, you know, that's why, you know, and the other thing, and I said I'd land it, but we've got 3 5-star quarterbacks sitting on the bench. You know what they're going to do. At least 2 of them are going to transfer.
Right.
Why don't we have some 5-star offensive linemen on the bench? So, you know, Ohio State did put a collection of talent, but I don't. What's the point of having 4 5-star quarterbacks on your roster in this day and age? To me, that's a waste of recruiting. But anyway, I love your show, Matt. Don't call much, but you're awesome, buddy.
Appreciate it, DJ. Thanks for the phone call. A lot of good stuff in there. I mean, it is unusual. You know, not a lot of excuses built in for Ohio State, and you know they're fine. As far as everything on the table you still want to play for, they're fine, and that is the national picture. But you know, kind of getting physically manhandled by Michigan is not a good sign. But you know, hey, he did bring up something that not a lot of people have talked about. It's the whole pressure thing. You know, a team all of a sudden feeling tight and some pressure because it's come down to the end of the year and you're playing somebody that, what are they playing for? You know, they don't have a game next week, you know, or Michigan just playing for a bowl game. And they just let it rip because they have nothing to lose. There's a difference there. All right, just getting started with y'all. Lots of texts and comments to get to. We'll start it next when we come back in the Bureau. Stick around.
Today's game from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Time was their breakfasts were gloomy. They just didn't feel right, and they didn't know a delicious cereal could help their sad plight. So they tried this and tried that, but irregularity kept coming back all the same. For as often the case, lack of bulk in their diet was actually to blame. Once at the grocer's, the wife was so drooping and sagging that a neighbor said, "Get on Kellogg's All-Bran wagon. Why, All-Bran has a flavor that's scrumptious to eat. So rich and nut-like, makes breakfast a treat. And of course, Kellogg's All-Bran can help you each day to youthful regularity, the dietary way." "Well, it might do some good," said the wife with a sigh. "Guess I'll get some All-Bran and give it a try." Soon, breakfasts at her house were happy and bright, for delicious Kellogg's All-Bran set their day off right. Yes, All-Bran supplies all the bulk in your diet, you see, that you may need for youthful regularity. And no half-brand cereal possibly can provide this help as surely as Kellogg's All-Bran. A delicious, non-habit-forming aid to your diet. You're sure to like All-Bran. Just buy it and try it.
Get on the Kellogg's All-Bran wagon with the best bran in the land. The cereal that tastes bran, the cereal that's All-Bran, a breakfast treat that can't be beat. Be a regular guy and climb aboard the All-Bran wagon. Eat Kellogg's All-Bran.
What is the secret of this enchanted book? What wonders are hidden within its pages? What magical spell does it cast on all who read it? What is the secret of the never-ending story?
But that's impossible!
You will enter a world where a young boy's imagination becomes a vivid reality. The world of Atreyu and Artax, the Rockbiter, good and kind gnome. A world that is vast and eternal, treacherous and dazzling, unforgettable and free. For anyone who's ever made a wish, believed in a fantasy, or had a dream, this is the never-ending story.
It's a new thing. It's a fun thing. It's a swing wing.
It's a what?
It's a swing wing. It's a wing wing. A brand new classic grand fun thing.
It's a what?
It's a swing wing. A fun thing. And now it's your favorite store thing.
It's a what?
Mazda announces some great news for truck buyers. Right now, you can beat the already outstanding value of the $67.95 Mazda SE5.
With you. So get in on the conversation and tell him what you think. Right now on the Zone 105.9 and worldwide at thezone1059.com.
Here we go. Back with you in the Bureau. We'll go live stream, text messages, phone lines are open to you as well. Need those numbers. They're scrolling on the bottom of the live stream over there right now on YouTube and on Facebook and on X, formerly Twitter. Just look up Radio Wyatt. Sorry, I'll say it clearer. Radio Wyatt. Radio and then my name. Should all be right there. Steve comments on Facebook, said, what can be done to curb the flag planting and brawling at football games? Yeah, what can be done, Steve? Well, you know, you have to penalize people. I picked on Kirk Herbstreit this weekend right after that Michigan-Ohio State thing because I remember back in, when was it? The end of the 2020 season? I think that's right. State was playing Tulsa in the bowl game. They had the fight at the end of the game, you know, and Herbstreit got on national television and proceeded to rip. I mean, he didn't just a little bit. He ripped Mike Leach and, quote, unquote, the program. And it was, you know, come to find out, there is some some personal history there in the whole ESPN Mike Leach thing. And it was over the top, and it was kind of, you don't see a whole lot of classless from Kirk Herbstreit. You know, we can argue about what we like and don't like that he says, but you don't see a whole lot of classless. But it was really kind of classless what he did. And you think, well, all right, what about now? What about now? Mr. A fight at the end of the game is the black eye for the sport. But to his credit, at some point yesterday, Kirk Herbstreit put this out on X. He said, I think any conference commissioner who had a team or teams involved in the post-game fights owes it to his conference and the sport, college football, to study the film closely and sit anyone who was involved in being an aggressor to help escalate the situation. Sit those involved for their next game, whether it's a bowl game or a playoff game. Those dudes need consequences for their own good. You know, and I agree with that. I thought that's actually kind of right on the money from Kirk Herbstreit. Thought that was right on the money. And they should. But you find something interesting in that thought process. Like, he understands the dynamic. You notice he didn't say coaches or schools should bench players who, according to the film, escalated the situation. Because you know what Herbstreit knows, Steve? No coach, no AD, no school would dare do that for portal and NIL reasons. They will not dare discipline their own players by sitting them in the next game because of escalating a fight. They're totally powerless. And I think Herbstreit knows no coach, no program is going to do it. But the commissioners of the conferences could definitely do it. And then you'd have a situation where the schools themselves could throw a little public hissy fit and put on a good show for that player and his family and his agents and his handlers Really. And it would put on a good show and maybe still have a quote-unquote relationship with the player and his group, and just blame everything on this ambiguous commissioner up there, the man behind the green curtain. See, Herb Street knows the only one who could even do anything about it is a conference commissioner. Now, here's the sad thing. They're not going to do a thing about it either. They're just not. Well, I mean, really, if you want to stop they convinced me as a nation that they were ready to curb the activity of leading with the crown of the helmet because of all the liability and lawsuit issues as pertain to head injuries and neck injuries. And so they started calling targeting even when it was marginal and throwing people out of a game, make them sit the next one. They proved to me they were serious about curbing it because they didn't want somebody suing them and getting their money. They fined Michigan and Ohio State $100,000 each. Really, what's that going to do? I'm serious. Like, what is that going to do to curb anything? See, Steve. So, this is another one you can kind of read the clues of what people are saying out there. Hunter says, Matt, did you notice a majority of conference championship games have a newcomer to the conference? Well, yeah, I didn't notice the others, but Oregon in the Big Ten and Texas in the SEC. How about that? And that's another year missing out on Atlanta for Ole Miss. They're going to get tired of it pretty soon. You better get there. Spend $20 million. You better get there. Somebody said the reason Kiffin didn't try to score at the end is because he wanted State to keep their defensive coordinator. I didn't think of that. Y'all are funny. Miko texts the show on the country pleasing text line. Country pleasing sausage on grocery store shelves all around the Southeast. Miko says, Matt, any update on the Southern Miss head coach? I heard Charles Huff may be accepting it. Charles Huff is a really good guy and good coach. Got to meet him and know him a little bit the one year that he was at Mississippi State under Joe Moorhead before he went to Alabama and then eventually wound up the head coach at Marshall. But, yeah, I think he's a good coach and a good guy. I think that'd be a really good get for Southern Miss if they can get that. Thibodeau texts the show and says, have all the black eyes been accounted for? No black eyes left behind. We're still picking on Herb Street about the black eyes comment. Now, Jason in Flagstaff says he needs a complete recap of the game. He was sick as a dog. He said and missed everything. He says, the only thing I saw was where Washington benched Will Rogers and immediately almost got their hotshot freshman QB killed, sacked 10 times, and ran for his life otherwise. I saw that too, Jason. I mean, and the kid is an excellent athlete, and he got sacked 10 times. It sounded like they probably did Will a favor. All right, unnamed texter talking about the Egg Bowl. He says the game really came down to 3 plays. The Bentley touchdown had opportunities to make a tackle and prevent the big play there. The interception, he says that ball's a little more out in front. That was a touchdown all day. Yeah, the second half trick play, really like a version of the pop pass where it's quarterback run, but you raise up and throw. And then he said in the goal line stand. He says that's the 3rd time this year that we've not been able to punch it in. Change any of those 3, and the Egg Trophy is potentially back in Starkville. Says Hail State, great effort by the team. I thought it was a really good effort by State. They played, what according to the rest of the year was kind of above their head, particularly defensively. But I think you're right. Those are probably the 3 biggest, like you feel something in your stomach when it happens moments in the game, right? Like tremendous missed opportunity. The Bentley touchdown is an 80-something yard run. And there were some, I know Ole Miss fans were really clamoring for that kid to play. And he is good. He's obviously very good and very fast. During the game, I thought he had some nice carries. that particular run, people are like, well, we've been trying to tell you. But, I would tell you, and I would show you this on film, that was a play where pretty much any SEC running back on any depth chart will score right there. If they're fast, which if you're playing running back, you are. State was in a zero defense for the most part. You had one safety back there, and that was Isaac Smith, who is a missile, by the way, he is an incredible player. But he overran that. Like, he's the back end. They blocked it so well. They kept running power and a version of counter with Bentley back there where they're pulling multiple people. And that was a play where both guards are pulling to that one side. And so you get a pin by the center. They're pulling the other two in a hole. It was just a wash. I mean, you could have driven a mid-sized pickup through the hole. And what happened is it puts him one-on-one with the safety, and Isaac's going to make that tackle a lot. It's just he overran it. He thought the play was going outside, and so he's going outside. He just vacated the middle, and then there's one little cutback. There's no defense there because you've gone zero in your formation. So by the overrun by the safety, you opened it up, and now we're in a foot race. And so what I would tell you is that was not a running back play. That was an offensive line blocking and defensive bust play. That's what that was. And I would tell you that not 9 out of 10, but about 19 out of 20 Southeastern Conference running backs are going to score right there because they're just going to run off and leave everybody because, it's like you get the ball and you just run, right? It was not a running back. He had more impressive runs at other spots that were a 7-yard carry and an 8-yard carry where he broke 2 or 3 tackles. That was an offensive line play and a safety overrunning it play. And it was like a big momentum deal in the game, right? And you were wondering when that was coming. Yeah, that interception on the pop, that was a great play call. And it got exactly what they wanted. And 2 things about it. One, it was a little bit rushed by Michael Van Buren. Just because you're playing against a defensive front, he's thinking, I'm going to get hit. I got to get this ball out. So he rushed it a little bit, and he wasn't patient enough. But it was a great play by that backside safety to peel up and recognize it and go get the football. And then the goal line stand. And let me tell you this. Before we go to break, come back, I want your thoughts. The best player in the game, the best football player in that Egg Bowl, was that Paul kid, the defender, linebacker for Ole Miss. What's his name? Chris Paul. He was the best football player on the whole field. And right behind him, the next best football player on the whole field is Isaac Smith. True story. All right, y'all stick around.
A lot of people are looking forward to seeing you this Christmas.
Thursday, it's Cosby starting off a night of family fun. And leave it to Family Ties to keep the laughs coming.
Oh, no. What are we going to do? Everything's under control.
Then on Cheers, will Norm think on a friend to get a promotion?
Yeah, yes, yes.
And the fun continues with Night Court. Thursday.
For over half a century, dairymen have tried to capture in cans the flavor of pure, fresh milk. And now Foremost has discovered the secret with an evaporated milk that's closest by far to fresh milk itself.
Kind of hard to believe, isn't it? An evaporated milk that doesn't have that old-fashioned evaporated milk taste. But it's true, and you can prove it. You know how most evaporated milks taste in coffee. The flavor goes flat. But try Foremost. You'll see it's white, the way milk ought to look, not drab tan like other brands. And when you taste it, well, if you're anything like me, you'll never even know it isn't pure, fresh cream. You try it and see. That's Foremost, the closest thing in cans to pure, fresh milk. Remember, your family gets the most from Foremost.
Coca-Cola, come on, girl, gotta share a Coke with you. Let the feeling through. You wanna live a little bit more. That's what the taste of Coke is for. Coke is like everybody wants a little life. Coca-Cola, Coke is like everybody wants.
Come on, Harry, come on. We're getting our picture taken.
Special moments, times of your life you'll want to remember in pictures.
Smile, Howard. Smile.
To help make those pictures look as good as they can, make sure Kodak paper is behind them. If you don't see these words, it isn't Kodak paper. Just look for this sign when you get your pictures. Kodak paper, for a good look at the times of your life.
Gee, wasn't that fun?
Come and get it! Come and get it!
Stop the confusion. Stop the confusion. Everybody wants to get into the act with Kellogg's Variety Pack. Buster wants the cornflakes. Pop wants a pep. Mama loves the raisin bran. Mama is hip. Sister loves Rice Krispies. And there's Uncle Jack. He loves Kellogg's shredded wheat. Kellogg's makes it fun to eat. Breakfast with Variety Pack. Okay, folks, there's your favorite individual box of cereal, fresh from Kellogg's Variety Pack, untouched by human hands, except your own. That don't mean you gotta eat with 'em. Each individual box comes to your FOD, fresh on delivery from Battle Creek, right to your own dish. Yeah, everybody wants to get into the act with Kellogg's Variety Pack. Yes, sir, Kellogg's Variety Pack.
Here comes the one, the delicious one. Heinz is the big rich one. There's only one ketchup with this flavor pouring on. It's so thick, so rich, so second to none.
Only one ketchup stands for this kind of thickness with this kind of taste. Heinz.
Heinz is the big rich one.
I love the rich, whole wheat goodness of Kellogg's Mini Wheats. But the delicious frosted side makes the rich kid in me open wide.
The nutritious shredded wheat helps keep me on my toes. But the little ballerina in me thinks the taste steals the show.
Kellogg's Mini Wheats, wholesome shredded wheat for the adult in you, great taste for the kid in you. So they're delicious.
Why? At the Zone 105.9.
All right, back with you. Making our way here in the Bureau today. Poet don't know it. The Mississippi Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Nick texted the show and he said State throwing it down the field and moving the ball, scoring touchdowns. So naturally they go away from that and try to run the ball. I didn't know where the sentence structure was going, but it tickled me, Nick, when I finally read it. He said, you're 2-9. Throw it downfield. What do you have to lose? Yeah. A big reason why, State had the 2 touchdowns on the board and a chance to score another, and were able to move the ball and get some first down. What were the first down totals in the game? Ole Miss had 21 first downs. State had 16, and time of possession was about the same. But the reason State was really competitive, I say really competitive. Sure enough, they're competitive. Just turned it over one too many times, 2 on offense, and had 1 stop on the goal line against the best scoring defense in the league. And that's a really good defense who didn't really play their best in the first half at Ole Miss. But the reason is because State hit the ball down the field. They continue to hit big play. They had a 44, a 36, a 42, where what are those? It's not really like, oh, we got a great matchup or we're drawing up these special plays. No, it was Ole Miss was giving you one-on-one. Your read took it to the one-on-one, and when you get the one-on-one, you have to take it and you have to win in the one-on-one. On the outside. And winning means protection, got it, check. Make the throw, got it, check. Make the catch. The big plays down the field. And that's one thing that the Ole Miss didn't have. They couldn't hook up on those in the game, and that's another reason they tried it some, but their offensive total was kept down because State was actually winning on defense, those one-on-ones on the outside. Ole Miss's longest pass play in the game was 21. See, so again, that's another reason that State was able to stay in the game and be competitive in it through, up through pretty much the fourth quarter. Is they hit explosives in the pass game on a night where they really couldn't run the ball because Ole Miss's defensive front is so good. And then on the defensive side, didn't give up those one-on-ones. I thought State's corners might have had their best game of the year collectively throughout. I mean, I really did. If you go to, I don't know, look, official stats don't always tell you, they'll show you a certain number of pass breakups. And you go, well, wait a minute, I thought we had more than, and then it comes down like, what do you consider a pass breakup? And all that. Like they credited Bryce Pollock with one pass breakup officially in the stats, but he actually had more than that. Washington, had a good player too there also. Lanier, I thought, played well at corner before he got hurt. I thought Pollock probably had his best game at corner. And I tell you, on that long touchdown run, that was another one too. That was a brilliant cut by the Ole Miss running back, Bentley, at about what, the 15? About the 10 or the 15, he made a great cut where it's just a little cut back to the west because Pollock was actually going to run him down. I know if you play corner in the SEC, you can run. They don't put you out there if you can't. But he was actually going to run him down and have a chance to, at least make contact, see if you get him down short of the goal line. That one cut is what, kept it from being, contact before the goal line and just getting in. That was a really good cut. All right, over to the phone line, the Divinity Equipment phone line. Thibodeau on line one. What's up, Thibodeau?
Well, a couple of points. One is, if we're going to talk about whether or not Ole Miss deserves to be in the playoff, let's rewind to Mississippi State finally getting back to the NCAA baseball tournament after a 2-year stint out of it. A lot of people were really, really, really upset and thought that they got robbed, that they didn't get a host site. They didn't get a chance to host. And I think it was you and me and a bunch of other people that had the conversation of, if you're a Mississippi school, you do not give any committees any reason to leave you out of something.
Yeah, that's right. No doubt.
Okay. Has anybody mentioned that Kentucky finished 15th and they lost at home to Kentucky?
Mm-hmm.
You gave them a reason to leave you out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that Ole Miss doesn't deserve it. I'm not saying that they're a bad team, and I'm not celebrating that they're not there. What I'm saying is this. When you're a Mississippi school, don't do something stupid. And losing at home to a team like Kentucky is stupid.
Yeah.
To tell you the truth, if Alabama was a 2-loss team and Ole Miss was a 2-loss team and it came down to those two, Ole Miss is still not getting it because you lose to Kentucky at home. Yeah. You give the NCAA, you give the committee a reason. Mm-hmm. If you had lost that game on the road, maybe you didn't give them a reason.
Yeah.
Or if Kentucky finishes bowl eligible, maybe you didn't give them a reason.
Well, I think, it's a great point. I really do. I think it's a great point. And that's the thing, you hate to, what do they call it, Thibodeau? They just say the human element. Okay, when you got away from the BCS and then you go to playoff rankings and you got a committee, there's a human element in there. Somebody else brought it up earlier. Like if you're Ole Miss this year or Florida State last year or whoever the heck it is, the very last single solitary thing you want to have happen in your scenario is for you to be up against between you and Alabama, because that human element is going to get you every time.
The other thing I was going to bring up is I think it was it was 2022, right around the time that we found out Mike Leach was sick. My wife and I got coronavirus. It was our first case we ever got, so it was pretty rough. And I was at home for probably about 5 or 6 days because when you're in the line of work I'm in, if you don't have any energy, you just can't do anything. It's not like I can sit behind a computer. So I was actually at home the morning that everyone found out that he passed away. and I was just flipping channels, and I happened to see on SEC Network somebody was interviewing Mike Leach. Well, it turned out to be it was a lead-in. I don't know if you saw this, but when the day that the news broke out, the SEC Network just dedicated like a couple of hours to him.
Okay.
And when they did that, they were interviewing all kinds of people that had interactions with him, and one of them was Kirk Herbstreit.
Okay.
Whenever they said, "Hey, we're going to go to Kirk, he's got some thoughts," I was like, "Oh, good grief."
Yeah.
Matt, it took Kirk about 40 seconds to make it about himself.
Really?
Yeah, like he brought up, he said, I've had my differences and my issues, stuff like that with Mike Leach. He said, you know what, I've let him know about it too. And I was like, okay, y'all should just go ahead and cut this off.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're right. Not a lot classless comes out of his mouth, but there's something about that relationship with him and Leach, and I think it has a lot to do with Craig James.
Yeah, it has to. Has to.
But, I mean, the idea that Kirk just can't let that go.
Mm-hmm. Or never could.
Even in a situation where, even in a situation where his employer is doing a tribute, you're going to act like a turd.
Yeah. A lot of times, it's not always the case. I'm not pinning it on him. I'm just saying this more an overall, Thibodeau, and you probably agree. For whatever reason, a lot of times the bigger the ego, the stickier the ego, because they just can't let stuff go. They can't shed anything. The bigger the ego, the stickier it is. And so I'm not surprised. And I guess looking back on that, not surprised. But hey, he didn't pick on one team, and I guess you couldn't because there were 10 different fights this year, but at least he did address it. But here's what I do know, and you know this too, Thibodeau. We're all human, and that includes Herbstreit. And in that whole deal, he was in the wrong. He let a personal thing really kind of affect whether or not he was telling the truth on something. And I guess maybe it can happen to anybody.
His comment was that whenever Leach and State played at Tuscaloosa, Kirk was calling the game. And he said, I had the chance to go down on the field pregame, and I had some words of kind of like he was saying he cleared the air with Coach Leach, and all I could sit there and think was, I bet Coach Leach could have cared what you were trying to do.
That's again, Thibodeau. Look, and I'm not. You're exactly right, Thibodeau. I don't want to sit here, and I know you don't either, put words in, Coach Leach's mouth, and now that he's gone. But do I think that at any point in his life, Coach Leach cared or really needed any sort of comment or apology from Herbstreit about anything? No. Only a guy like Herbstreit would think Mike Leach would care. And that's one of the reasons they hated him, is he genuinely didn't care what any of them thought ever. Good stuff, Thibodeau. Thanks for the call.
Have a good one.
You too, man. So true, too. So true. Man, where did hour one go? Hour two coming up. I'll get to your text, Rebel Rex, Res Dog, Denzel, Patrick, Earl, the rest of y'all. On the live stream, Will, Roshana, Hunter, Hail State fan, coming to you. Hour two coming up. Stick around.
I was born and raised in Greenville. I've always called Greenville home. This is where I, was raised, went to high school, graduated high school, worked all my life here leading up to going to college. So even when I moved from Greenville, I always told people, they asked me where you're from, I always said I'm from Greenville. I have mother, father, brother, niece, aunt, all live here in Greenville. So this is home. This is where I, live, and I've just always called it home. Small town, I feel like I could walk in any place tomorrow and know 2 to 3 people in there. It's small town. Someone's on the side of the road broken down. Hey, you need a boost, flat tire, you need help changing it. That's just kind of, what I love about this area. The blues and the food and everything that comes along with the Mississippi Delta that I love. I tell people all the time, my business cards have my cell phone number on them for a reason. Insurance doesn't happen from 8 to 5. When you need me, it's going to be after 5. It hardly ever happens where you have a wreck, get pulled over, need an insurance card, wind blows, shingles off your roof. All these things happen, and it's typically after 5. And so the ability for someone to call me, get in contact with me, text me, ask me a question, and that's what it's about to me, is helping the people that we serve, is taking care of people, and them knowing that they can count on me whenever they need me. I am Brian Street with Farm Bureau Insurance in Washington County, and we are your home team.
Y'all have heard me talk about Murray West and MurrayWest.com. They made the hat that I'm wearing. Got the Natchez Trace logo on it. I've told you a little bit about what they are. Contract embroidery company here in Mississippi. Started back in 1996, family owned. They do a phenomenal job, and I got to go visit their place up in New Albany. Let me show you a little bit about it. I say they do quality stuff, they really do. And so custom apparel, team stuff, really and truly, just about every high school in the state is sending their embroidered, team gear, jackets, shirts, hats, stuff. Baseball teams, football teams, they're sending it to the folks at Murray West in New Albany. You go to their website, MurrayWest.com, you go to the bottom, you can kind of see some of the Prairie Wildlife, Ole Miss Athletics, Gentile, others that they work with. Can't recommend them enough. If you need your logo printed, embroidered, sewn on to anything, custom apparel and other stuff, make sure you go there. Murray West, you can find them online. MurrayWest.com. That's MURRY West.com.
Diabetes captures 1 in 3 adults.
I'm Eddie Holcomb with Washington County Farm Bureau Insurance.
I'm Scott Rainwater with Farm Bureau Insurance here in Washington County.
I'm Blake Policini with Washington County Farm Bureau.
I am Brian Street with Farm Bureau Insurance in Washington County, and we are your home team.
Y'all have heard me talk about Murray West and MurrayWest.com. They made the hat that I'm wearing. Got the Natchez Trace logo on it. I've told you a little bit about what they are. Contract embroidery company here in Mississippi. Started back in 1996, family owned. They do a phenomenal job, and I got to go visit their place up in New Albany. Let me show you a little bit about it. I say they do quality stuff, they really do. And so custom apparel, team stuff, really and truly, just about every high school in the state is sending their embroidered, team gear, jackets, shirts, hats, stuff. Baseball teams, football teams, they're sending it to the folks at Murray West in New Albany. You go to their website, MurrayWest.com, you go to the bottom, you can kind of see some of the Prairie Wildlife, Ole Miss Athletics, Gentile, others that they work with. Can't recommend them enough.
The Zone 105.9 and worldwide.
Now, here we go.
At the Zone 1059.com.
Here we go. Hour number 2 of the show, off and running with you on this Monday, Reaction Monday. I'm Matt in the Bureau, the Mississippi Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Farm Bureau Insurance. Go with the home team. They are your home team at Farm Bureau Insurance all across the great state of Mississippi. I had a comment a minute ago from Roshana on Facebook on the live stream. She said, hey, Matt, if we keep our defensive coordinator, do you think that they'll hire an experienced defensive coordinator / analyst to help him? Well, so we go if. And so far, no peeps of firings or changes there, anything for Jeff Levy and staff. That would be a good idea. The rules are loosening on the numbers of coaches you can have, and in terms of on-field stuff, and guys who are not necessarily position coaches being able to coach during practice and all these different things. And Roshana, really, I think you're onto something, that if you're, which to this point, it does not look like there's going to be a change there. Hutzler, young guy, last year was his first year as a DC ever. So there's a little bit of learning on the fly going on. So, if you're going to roll with that again next year, it would make a lot of sense. There's some people out there, connections in the football world, former coaches, head coaches, whoever they are. The more experience, the better. And in one of these analyst roles where you pay them, I'm talking about good money to come in and basically just focus on one thing every week, and you start to add all that up, you kind of you're touching on sort of the model that Saban had going for him all those years at Alabama. Yeah, I think that would make a lot of sense. Probably be a good expenditure of your money. But I still think, Roshana, a better expenditure of your money is going out and paying players and loading up with as much quality depth as you can load up with. And again, there's some ifs in there. I know just because you can doesn't mean you do. But State is not in a position right now where the answer to their deal is go out and find the A1 most expensive edge rusher in college football and pay him to come in there for a year. That ain't the answer. It is how many quality defensive linemen can you convince to come in 1 year, no matter what it costs? Numbers. I mean, quality is important, but numbers of quality. I think that's where they are. Patrick pointing this out. See, this speaks to, again, what I was talking about in sort of this blanket, non-specific evaluation of this year's Egg Bowl, where I said State played up, Ole Miss didn't, kind of played down, and therefore you had a close game where State was right in it the whole way and knocking on the door late, just couldn't punch it in because Ole Miss's defensive front is probably the best position unit in the stadium. I felt like the best football player in the stadium Saturday was Paul. What is he, linebacker, safety, kind of a hybrid? I mean, he was everywhere. He didn't lead them in tackles. Now, imagine this. Probably the most highly paid player, certainly the most highly paid defensive player in that game, Walter Nolan, the defensive lineman they got from A&M. He's a defensive tackle who led them in tackles. 8 tackles, 3.5 TFLs, a sack and a half. He was a man among boys. But Paul, their linebacker, 6 tackles, a sack, a TFL, had the interception. He was everywhere. I thought he to me looked like the best defensive player in the game, and I felt like That's what Isaac Smith is for State's defense. Now, they're about like, one's a safety, one's a linebacker, but they're similar type players in some ways, and I think they're both guys who are next-level defenders. You're going to watch them play in the NFL for a long time. That's how I felt about it. But anyway, Patrick said this. The only two teams that did not put up 400 yards against State, Eastern Kentucky and, drumroll, Ole Miss. I mean, try to figure that out. They were 3 yards shy of 400. They had 397. But 143 yards passing. And again, 58%. Some of that's because the 2 or 3 times they did try to go one-on-one on the outside, State covered it. State corners were winning the one-on-ones against their receivers. But, still Dart was so good. But that's just a head-scratcher. What do you chalk that up to? And I'm watching them, and even from I wasn't necessarily like, as we watched the game live, trying to actively put patterns together and see what their schemes and their setups were offensively, but it just seemed what they were doing just seemed to not have like a flow to it. It didn't look like, I don't know, it looked choppy. I don't know how else to describe it. Just something didn't add up. And it was that was the case several times throughout the year for them. Hard to figure that out. And you go, well, maybe it's as simple as your star receiver is hurt. Okay, and if your star receiver isn't hurt and he's on the outside, then you hit 2 or 3 of those 50-50 balls down the field, and here you go. Maybe that's the thing that makes it, that kind of lights the fuse and makes it take off. But you would think that it's not only that. It's just hard to figure them out offensively as to why they would have days like that. Denzel texts the show. Country Pleasing text line. Country Pleasing sausage on grocery store shelves all around the Southeast. It is the best, in my opinion. The number to text is 885-3776. Another good way to remember that is 885-ESPN. Denzel texts the show. He said, newsflash, DJ, your Buckeyes are soft. Your head coach is soft. Got outplayed by a bad Michigan team. For 23 years in a row, the team in that game that rushes for the most yards wins the game. And then he says, Ryan Day fears Michigan. Woo! Scathing, Denzel. Scathing. Rex, Rebel Rex. He said, hey, Matt, in the Saints game, they took away a scoop and score from the Rams because they said Derek Carr's arm was going forward. It was in the cocked position. He says, that tuck rule is awful. They need to look at that. He said, God bless, and God is great. Yes, he is. Yeah, the tuck rule, man, the source of a lot of controversy. But, the Rams wound up winning the game anyway. Earl in Madison said, Matt, there's not another running back on our roster who would have scored on that long run. Maybe a good game, but not a score. No, they would have. Well, and okay, I don't know. I mean, if you don't have another running back with top-end speed, okay, but, Bentley, I don't think, was running a 4.2 or a 4.3 there. He's probably a 4.4 or 4.5 guy. Bryce Pollock basically was going to catch him at the 15 before that little cut, which is a brilliant cut at the end. So, Earl, I'm just going to disagree with you. Again, you may see something in the film study that I don't see, and I'd love to know. But what I see in it is, it was blocked so cleanly and so perfectly. State had a fall down and a wash by 2 guys on the front. You get 2 pullers. Both guards are pulling to that side. I don't remember if it was power or counter. Up front, it doesn't really matter. It's the same either way if that's who's pulling. And in that case, it was 2 guards pulling around. And once it's blocked and you have this massive hole and you're up with one of those guards on the linebacker, the only thing left was a safety because State's in the zero. Well, the safety was Isaac Smith, and he overran it. He ran 2 gaps over thinking the ball's going outside. And when you do that, as they call it safety for a reason, because you're the last one. And once you overrun that, then it's just foot race time. That was not a running back play. That was a line of scrimmage play. And then it's just a matter of foot race. So if you're telling me, okay, well, we don't have fast guys that could outrun somebody for 80 yards, well, that's one thing. But what I'm telling you is, if you take the first and second string running backs at every SEC school, 1A and 1B at every SEC school is going to score right there. I know for a fact State's got 2. Booth or Daniels right there scores once you hit that hole and it's an overrun by the safety. Either one of them is going to outrun everybody. Jason in Flagstaff said, never forget that less than a year after the State and Tulsa fight, Michigan and Ohio State were involved in a brawl, which Herbie called a, quote, show of passion. He had no problem with it at all. Jason, I remember that. Yeah, look, I'm through pinning Herb Street to the wall over it, but it remains a fact, is he had a personal grudge against Mike Leach, as did many of the other people at ESPN, and they never, ever had enough backbone to not let it affect their analysis and their opinions. Brando texts the show. He said, Matt, curious to hear your take on the opponent planning stuff at midfield. You may have already talked about it. Just tune in. Well, Brando, yeah, I mean, everybody was doing it. It almost felt like once probably everybody around the country is watching the Michigan, the Ohio State game. And once they do it, it's almost like it took the lid off of it and everybody's trying it, It's such a weird thing, too. And, it's true. I mean, gone are the days. Chalk it up to whatever you want to chalk it up to, societal changes or 7-on-7 or what. I don't know. I'm not the expert, but gone are the days of respect for your opponent, at least in terms of feeling as though you show it. We live in a time now where even the guys who genuinely do have respect for their opponent almost feel obligated to strut around like a rooster at every opportunity. Like, okay, shine like a diamond. Now's my time to shine. I made a tackle. We're behind by 14. I made a tackle on first down, and now it's 2nd and 4. But I made the tackle, so here I go. Strutting around. It's camera time. It's like obligatory camera time. And so that sort of mindset affects everything. And you know what? Here's the thing, too. I've almost lived long enough to see it now come back around. At some point, it'll turn. It'll come back around. It's just what things do. It's like big sunglasses and bell bottoms. You come in style, and then they go out. And they come back in, and they go out. Res Dog texts the show. He says, Matt, how bad will we hurt USM's strength of schedule next year? My man. That's another one that I was just reading it. I didn't know where it was going, but it was funny. Yeah, I get to go start the season off in Hattiesburg. Have I told y'all the story of the last time we started the season in Hattiesburg? I don't know if you want it all. Right? I'll just give you the Cliff Notes. But it was Dak's senior year, 2015, first game of the year. Season is opening at Southern Miss. Dak versus who was the kid for? He's been in the NFL as a backup forever. Why can't I think of his name? The kid from Birmingham. Southern Miss's quarterback is who I'm thinking of at that time. You know who I'm talking about. But anyway, first game of the year, 2015 season, at Southern Miss. Because it was at Southern Miss, they put it on television on CBS Sports Network after a boxing match, and it kicked off at 9:04 Central Time p.m. Y'all, after bedtime, it kicked off in Hattiesburg. And there were storms all day, the day before and the day leading up to the game. That night, and it was one of those late August, early September weather deals where it's pitch dark, 10 o'clock at night, and it's hot and muggy and everything's wet and you can't clean the window. You can't clear the window of condensation to save your life. Everything's fogged over and sticky. Well, the press box that we're sitting in to call the game on the radio in Hattiesburg has a fixed window because of its proximity to hurricane territory. So legally, the windows must not be able to open. So we're in a shut window. It's completely condensed because in our booth, we're running the AC. The whole press box is, for that matter. But outside the booth, it's 90 degrees and humid at 9 p.m. So we couldn't see anything. And we're like, we can't see out the window. And you can't open it. We literally cannot see the field from the visiting broadcast booth at the Rock. So what are we going to do? And so just before the game, some guy comes into the stands at Southern Miss with the longest handled squeegee I have ever seen. It was a squeegee on the end of a pole that had to be 35, 40 feet long. And he's up in the stands. He's like, excuse me. People are moving out of their seats, and he's like whipping this thing around, and then it's like, bam, he finally gets it on the window, and he starts squeegeeing our window from 40 feet down in order for us to be able to see the field, and we could do it. And then, oh, by the way, and again, I know you don't care, but here goes. Again, the last time we played, I was sick as a dog during that game and getting worse and getting worse and getting worse. And because of, being a road game and the way we did things back then is Jim would go to the locker room when the game was over and he'd get the interview with the coach, send it back, and then he'd travel home with the team when they left. And I would stay behind and do the post game myself. And I was so sick. I can't. And it was 2 a.m. because the game kicked off at 9. I think I had a hotel room in like Laurel, but I felt so bad. Quite literally, the first segment of the post-game show was this right here. Welcome back to the Rock. Here's a final score. You're listening to Mississippi State football. That's it. I mean, that literally was it. I was sick as a dog. I couldn't even see straight. I felt bad for 3 days after that, too. Yeah, and that's it. Nick Mullins. That's who it was. Nick Mullins, who he's been in the NFL as long as Dak has, hasn't he? And hadn't started as many games, but he's played in a bunch and started some and done well. So Southern Miss will have a new coach, and they'll get to look at making a splash if they can get a win over State in the first game next year. Let's see. White Denzel texts the show, country pleasing text line. He says, Matt, I believe you're thinking of Nick Mullins. That's it. I was mentioning the linebacker at Chris Paul. I mean, I'm going to tell you, you talk about impressive. I hadn't seen the rest of their games, but, when it was all over, I wondered to myself, is that the best football player on this whole field today? He was that good. Rex says Paul is a transfer guy that Lane Kiffin said he had around 40 new players from out of state. They didn't know the magnitude of the Egg Bowl. Just a thought. Didn't know the magnitude of the Egg Bowl. Hey, well, I'll tell you this. Listen, one of the weirdest scenes. Now, I think part of this could be because, rightfully so, Ole Miss's team was bought and paid for and put together to make a run at the playoffs. And even after the Egg Bowl, it's this big unknown for them, right? So maybe there was a little bit of a lull like that, and you're playing this 2-win football team that stayed on the field with you that wasn't supposed to. But when the game was over, about 10 Ole Miss players, what looked like to me 10, maybe 12 Ole Miss players, grabbed the Egg Bowl trophy and took it over to the student section and, people took pictures with it and stuff. It was like 10 or 12 of them, including some players that did that, didn't even play. And then the rest of the Ole Miss team just kind of shook hands and went to the locker room. I mean, it's like, I got the feeling that a good portion of their team didn't even know there was a trophy. It was odd. I've never seen one like that. I've never seen myself post-game battle for the golden egg look like that. It was weird to say the least. Hill Dog texts the show. He says, I don't like it either, Matt. If we had more Coach Carters in the world, that strutting like a rooster crap wouldn't be tolerated. Yeah, that's the truth. But it's just a different time. We're old now. John in Auburn says, I wonder if this rule change would work. For player safety, any player who goes down injured and needs training staff is out for the rest of that quarter or half. It would stop teams from halting fast break offenses. Well, what about y'all? I feel like I saw a little bit of I think I saw fewer instances of obvious faking injuries just to get a clock stoppage or get a breather once the commissioner announced that he was going to be fining the coaches. You still saw some. I just feel like it put a dent in it. And so if it did, then hats off to the coaches, for implementing those changes, even though they could be obtuse and kind of be defiant against that if they wanted to, but it looks like the coaches went along with it and put a stop to most of that. All right, here we go. Rolling along, hour 2 in the Bureau. This Reaction Monday. More with you coming up. Stick around.
A lot of people are looking forward to seeing you this Christmas.
Today's game from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Time was their breakfasts were gloomy. They just didn't feel right, and they didn't know a delicious cereal could help their sad plight. So they tried this and tried that, but irregularity kept coming back all the same. For as often the case, lack of bulk in their diet was actually to blame. Once at the grocer's, the wife was so drooping and sagging that a neighbor said, "Get on Kellogg's All-Bran wagon. Why, All-Bran has a flavor that's scrumptious to eat. So rich and nut-like, makes breakfast a treat. And of course, Kellogg's All-Bran can help you each day to youthful regularity, the dietary way." "Well, it might do some good," said the wife with a sigh. "Guess I'll get some All-Bran and give it a try." Soon, breakfasts at her house were happy and bright, for delicious Kellogg's All-Bran set their day off right. Yes, All-Bran supplies all the bulk in your diet, you see, that you may need for youthful regularity. And no half-brand cereal possibly can provide this help as surely as Kellogg's All-Bran. A delicious, non-habit-forming aid to your diet. You're sure to like All-Bran. Just buy it and try it.
Get on the Kellogg's All-Bran wagon with the best bran in the land. The cereal, the taste bran, the cereal that's All-Bran. A breakfast treat that can't be beat. Be a regular guy and climb aboard the All-Bran wagon. Eat Kellogg's All-Bran.
What is the secret of this enchanted book? What wonders are hidden within its pages? What magical spell does it cast on all who read it? What is the secret of the never-ending story?
But that's impossible!
enter a world where a young boy's imagination becomes a vivid reality. The world of Atreyu and Artax, the Rockbiter, and the good and kind gnome. A world that is vast and eternal, treacherous and dazzling, unforgettable and free. For anyone who's ever made a wish, believed in a fantasy, or had a dream, this is the never-ending story.
It's a new thing. It's a fun thing. It's a swing wing. It's a what? It's a swing wing. It's a wing wing. A brand new grand fun thing. It's a what? It's a swing wing. A fun thing. And now it's your favorite store thing. It's a what?
Mazda announces some great news for truck buyers. Right now, you can beat the already outstanding value.
1059 and coming to you worldwide at thezone1059.com.
Back with you. And the Bureau on Reaction Monday. Hale State fan on YouTube said, I predict we double our win total next season. Well, that'd be a good place to start. But, you know, honestly, like if that's all you do, maybe depends on who it is. Huh? But that's all you do, that'd be 4. It might be sticky. That might get interesting if all you do next year is double it to 4 wins. People are going to be clamoring for much, for greater improvement. Now, schedule still is going to be really tough next year. Basically, same schedule, flip-flop at home and away. So it's still going to be tough. But that's the interesting thing, too, about the schedule rotation is that, here's Texas's first year in the league, and it's a really favorable schedule. And so it flips for them next year, but it's a lot of the same teams and still going to be a very, very manageable schedule for Texas in year 2. Let's see what they do in year 1. They said, what's his name? Quinn Ewers is going to most likely play this weekend, go through the same practice routine that he had last week, which ultimately led to him playing then. So you think maybe at least him playing this one. Any other results from the weekend surprise you? No, I'm not going over. No, not going to go over any AP Associated Press poll stuff because it just doesn't matter. It's completely useless in the college football playoff era. Not even sure why anybody looks at it or promotes it anymore. Doesn't mean anything. It has no bearing on anything. The AP poll has as much bearing as my poll does. And I didn't even do one. So I'm not doing the rankings thing. Man, how in the world did Georgia come back and beat Georgia Tech? All right, I'll admit I fell asleep. Okay, so I didn't see it. But how? 21 points in the fourth quarter by Georgia to get it to overtime. It was what then? How close were we to sitting there going, wait a minute, time out. Georgia's got 3 losses like these others, and they're about to play in the SEC title game, and that might be loss number 4, even though they beat Texas earlier in the year. That could have, should have, would have been really interesting. But there they go. Colorado and the Buffaloes, 52-0 over Oklahoma State. Deion has them 9-3, playing in a really nice bowl game somewhere. Did you get what you wanted out of Texas and Texas A&M? I think I would have preferred, like, as a fan, a higher scoring game, but yeah, Texas beating A&M 17-7, and lo and behold, you look up, A&M's 8-4 again. Now, I'm not making fun of 8-4. 8-4 is a good record. Trust me. I'm just saying. Tennessee Vandy was a pretty good game early. How about that? You know, Vandy was up 17-7 at the end of the first quarter. And the rest of the game, Tennessee outscored them 29-6. Of course, South Carolina getting a win on the road over Clemson, and that's setting that whole thing up. I guess playoff rankings come out tomorrow night, and that'll tell you kind of where things are. I don't know. Will they adjust them after the title games? Will they reward anybody? I mean, I guess they could, right? Because the automatics will be determined by some of the title games. Well, anyway, that's kind of where things are. Let me go back over here to the live stream where I got behind a little bit earlier. Let's check in on that. Danny on YouTube said, Hail State Matt from Ringgold, Georgia, on a non-sports related topic. I highly recommend the movie Bonhoeffer. How do I say that? He said it's a great, historically accurate portrayal of people standing for righteousness. Bonhoeffer? I'm going to have to check it out. Danny, thanks for the recommendation. Will on YouTube says, Oregon versus Penn State and Georgia versus Texas are effectively playoffs for a first-round bye. Okay, so Oregon, Penn State, Big Ten, SEC title game, Georgia, Texas. Winner gets first-round bye. So the loser is going to host a home playoff game. But you might as well consider all those teams are a lock for the playoffs. So there's 4 of them right there. Will said, Tennessee and Notre Dame are your other 2 playoff hosts and should be considered locks for the playoff. I'll tell you this, you know, again, to this day, as I stand here right now, after 14 years in the booth as a color man, 16 total on the radio, 5 years as a college player back when, I still have never been to a game at the Swamp in Florida. What do we get to go next year? Next year will be my first time. Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. That'll be my first chance to go. But I've been to all the rest of them and some recently. And I think the best atmosphere I've ever seen at an opposing Mississippi State game was this year at Tennessee. I think the Tennessee home atmosphere at Neyland Stadium has surpassed everywhere else. And that's everything from, you know, pregame and run-in and music and entertainment, the way they do it all. I think it's, and of course, huge in the fans, and they're into it. Tennessee has the best atmosphere. There will be nobody else. I mean, Georgia's atmosphere is great, but it's not Tennessee right now. You know, and there will be nobody else in the playoff with a home atmosphere really that touches what Tennessee's going to roll out there. So hats off to the people in Knoxville and to their fans. Will went on to say, Boise State versus UNLV, Arizona State versus Iowa State, and SMU versus Clemson are all de facto playoff games. Winners of those games are in, and said only SMU can maybe afford a close loss. Yeah, and still get in. Maybe so. Man, but should they? All right, hold on a minute. Let me flip over there. All right, so the ACC title game this Saturday, 7 p.m. on ABC. SMU is 11-1 on the year, and they are good. Okay, we're not saying they're not good. They are 11-1 on the year. Their one loss was to BYU. Their 11 wins have come against Nevada, Houston Christian, TCU, Florida State, Louisville, when Louisville was ranked, Stanford, Duke, Pitt, Boston College, Virginia, and Cal. And the last 4 weeks now, they've been pretty dominant. Put up 48 against a good Pitt team, 38 against BC, 33-7 against Virginia, 38-6 over Cal. They've been good. You can only play a schedule they give you. But again, let's don't talk about strength of schedule with them because they don't want to. So, look, that schedule, you finish 11-2 and you lose to Clemson Saturday night. Why in the world would they be in? I can't, again, Will, I'll go back to what I said at the beginning of the show. It depends on what they tell me in that room, that committee. Okay? So, Will, you and I are together. We go up, we knock on the door. The committee opens the door and we say to them, hey, listen, what criteria are y'all actually using to fill out this playoff? And if they look at me and you, Will, and they say, well, we just want the 12 best teams, that's all. Okay, well, how are you going to justify not weighting the SEC very heavily, and the Big Ten for that matter? You can't justify that. You can go, because if you're telling me, here's what I'm saying, and far be it from me to stand here and lobby on behalf of somebody like Ole Miss, but I'm saying, if you're telling me you're trying to put the 12 best teams at the end of the year in the playoff, which includes the ones that automatically get in because of conference champ deal, depending on how that falls, and so now you're going to fill out the next 7 or 8 best teams. You're telling me that a 9-3 team from the SEC isn't better than even an 11-1 or now 11-2 team from the ACC? Of course they are. They are. They're better. South Carolina just beat Clemson. Now, I know, let's let it play out this weekend. But I'm going into the weekend convinced the SEC is not down. It's just good. But we'll see if we get proved wrong. A little bit of time left when we come back. Stick around.
Getting directions to the Christmas tree farm.
20 minutes away.
Sharing video of the kids' nativity.
I was born and raised in Greenville. I've always called Greenville home. This is where I, was raised, went to high school, graduated high school, worked all my life here, leading up to going to college. So even when I moved from Greenville, I always told people, they asked me where you're from, I always said I'm from Greenville. I have mother, father, brother, niece, aunt, all live here in Greenville. So this is home. This is where I, live, and I've just always called it home. Small town, I feel like I could walk in any place tomorrow and know 2 to 3 people in there. It's small town. Someone's on the side of the road broken down. Hey, you need a boost, flat tire, you need help changing it. That's just kind of what I love about this area, the blues and the food and everything that comes along with the Mississippi Delta that I love. I tell people all the time, my business cards have my cell phone number on them for a reason. Insurance doesn't happen from 8 to 5. When you need me, it's going to be after 5. It hardly ever happens where you have a wreck, get pulled over, need an insurance card, wind blows, shingles off your roof. All these things happen, and it's typically after 5. And so the ability for someone to call me, get in contact with me, text me, ask me a question, and that's what it's about to me, is helping the people that we serve, is taking care of people, and them knowing that they can count on me whenever they need me. I am Brian Street with Farm Bureau Insurance in Washington County, and we are your home team.
Y'all have heard me talk about Murray West and murraywest.com. They made the hat that I'm wearing. Got the Natchez Trace logo on it. I've told you a little bit about what they are. Contract embroidery company here in Mississippi. Started back in 1996, family owned. They do a phenomenal job, and I got to go visit their place up in New Albany. Let me show you a little bit about it. When I say they do quality stuff, they really do. And so custom apparel, team stuff, really and truly, just about every high school in the state is sending their embroidered, team gear, jackets, shirts, hats, stuff. Baseball teams, football teams, they're sending it to the folks at Murray West in New Albany. You go to their website, murraywest.com, you go to the bottom, you can kind of see some of the Prairie Wildlife, Ole Miss Athletics, Gentile, others that they work with. Can't recommend them enough. If you need your logo printed, embroidered, sewn on to anything.
On the Zone 1059 and worldwide at thezone1059.com.
All right, hey, back with you. Of all the things that we've covered today in the Mississippi Farm Bureau Insurance Studio, still none of it as important as the question that I have for Beaver right now. Now, far be it from me to delay in talking to Beaver. I did not do it on purpose. Hey, B! I think I'm being shunned. I think I'm being shunned. Hang on. Try one more time. Hang on. Hey, B. In fact, I was going to ask, is it time for Christmas music? That's all. I'm just going to ask, is it okay? It's December the 2nd. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Depends on who you ask.
Christmas time is here.
Is it? I know I'm listening to Christmas music. What about y'all? Hey, congrats to Class 3A North Half champs, Choctaw County. I'm sorry, they're South Half champs. And North Half champs in 3A, Noxubee County. It's Choctaw versus Noxubee. 3A state championship, 4 o'clock on Thursday at M.M. Roberts Stadium in Hattiesburg. Then that night, 7A championship game. Thursday night at 7:30 is the planned kickoff between North Half champs Tupelo 13-0 versus South Half champs your Brandon Bulldogs.
Hey, Matt Wyatt.
Hey, Beaver!
I'm glad you mentioned this. By the way, I heard the music, but now Jake Wimberly and Uncle Bill have finally stopped yelling in my ears, so I'm here now.
Well, it's great. How you doing?
I'm good, but look, you mentioned this Brandon Tupelo game, and I got to ask, and see if you agree with me, how stupid, why in the world, okay, think about that. That's the first night. It's the 7A, the main event, the biggest classification. Oh, let's put that on night one.
Night number one, baby.
What a dumb, stupid decision of the many that MHSAA have made in the past. I know we're supposed to, technically kiss their bottom since they're sponsors, but that's stupid.
Well, okay, so, and the way it's going to go is Thursday night, the nightcap is the 7A, as you're pointing out. Friday night, the nightcap is 5A. And Saturday night, the nightcap, after 3 games that day, is 6A. So, yeah, I don't... You know what, Beaver? Can I be real with you here? It's almost like somebody went, well, we're adding a classification this year. And then somebody goes, yeah, well, we're also adding Thursday. Hey, well, let's put that on Thursday. But I guess what you're driving at, Beaver, is that most likely this will be one of maybe the most highly attended game, or potentially the most highly attended game. And it would certainly sell more tickets if it were on Saturday night than being on Thursday night. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, it's almost like it's like the main card.
Yeah,
let's go to the main card. Come see this match. I guess we're getting into wrestling territory now, which wouldn't be the first time. But
Thursday.
Exactly. Yeah, and let's do this match first. Well, then all right, everybody, let's walk out now.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Now, you bring up a good point. It would do better if it were on Saturday. But it's Thursday night. Tupelo versus Brandon. 12-0 versus... Sorry, 13-0 versus 12-1. Ooh, boy. Hey, Beaver, here's the most important question of the day. December the 2nd. Is it time for Christmas music yet?
Yeah.
Bingo.
Yes, it is. It is indeed.
We got the Beaver stamp of approval. Now, the next most important question. How was your Thanksgiving meal?
It was good.
What did you have?
Just the very basics.
Okay, all right.
There was turkey, dressing, sweet potato casserole, rolls.
Okay.
There were green beans, because I told you little C, I told you her, it's too many starches. You got to have something green in there,
right?
Which I don't subscribe to. And then there was pecan and pumpkin pie.
Atta baby. Hey, Beav, was it turkey, like the whole turkey in the oven, or was it, so it was the whole thing? Okay, so it's that. I got you. We had this year the sliced turkey. It's already cut. It was really good. But let me just tell you something. On all the other stuff, the Homecoming Queen and Half Pint, they went all out. Beef, they made with the raw ingredients. They didn't go buy a pumpkin pie. They went and got the raw stuff, okay, and made it. And here's why. Get this, Beaver. Instead of making one big whole pie, It was taking the mix that you make the pies with, but they cooked it in the oven in a cupcake sheet. You get what I'm saying? So that it's these individual little cupcake size pumpkin pies.
I like that idea.
Mm-hmm. And then, then you can individually take the whipped cream and put how much on your little pumpkin pie cupcake you want. Some want a little dab will do you, and for some, they need a little more. Let me just tell you, I ate way more than my share of those things. Okay, them sweet potato casserole with pecans on top and all that. They, get this, Beeb, they made not cornbread, but it was called a cornbread casserole. I don't know how to describe it other than it was like cornbread, but much fancier. Okay? It was fantastic. That's another thing that I ate way more than my fair share of. Okay, real deal mashed potatoes. Yeah, the green beans with bacon and stuff in the crock pot, they cooked like all day. She got up early Thursday morning and got them started. Ate way more than my fair share of those. Cranberry. Beaver, here's what I came away with. I finished off what was left of the cranberry sauce out of the can last night. Why it is so good, why do I have to wait for special occasions to eat that? That's what I want to know.
Well, I don't know, Matt Wyatt. I guess technically, because what was the stat that I saw? Cranberry sauce in the can.
Yeah.
I think it said 85% of it is sold between Thanksgiving and Christmas only.
Right. It is.
So there are 15% of the world out there, or the country, eating this in June, so you might as well.
That's fixing to be me. That's about to be me. It is way too good. I enjoy it way too much to wait on it just for Thanksgiving and Christmas. I've decided there's no reason to wait on that. But here's the thing, Beef. So all that food, and there was like leftovers and leftovers and leftovers. Okay. And I love leftovers way more. You could tell me, Matt, there's a 5-star restaurant right next door to you. Here is a gift card, $150 for this 5-star restaurant right next door to you. You can either do that, it's within walking distance, or you have Thanksgiving leftovers in the fridge. I'm going leftovers every time. I have been eating Thanksgiving food Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and again yesterday. Last night, it's finally gone. Let me tell you something. I'm a happy man. I'm heavier than I was this time last week, but I'm a happy man. And you can't rain on my parade right now. Good show today on a Monday. For Beaver, I'm Matt. All of us here on the show, we'll see you in the Bureau, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio tomorrow. Same time, same place. See you then.